Pearson, and this is the Outlet Forum with my esteemed co-host, Chris Camillo. What up, Chris?
We head off to Chicago for a certain theme from a certain town, better known as the Bears. The Bears.
And for this week, Chris, it's fuck the Bears. Go Rams. It's divisional weekend. We got everything for you guys this week coming up with the NFL. We got some great games. We'll get into who we think will make it to Championship Sunday next Sunday. And Ja Morant, where will he land? We'll get into those rumors coming up in just a bit. And of course, LeBron finally speaks out against what Rich Paul has to say and distances himself from his agent's views. And of course, we got to get into some other trade discussion with actually a trade that went down with Trae Young, who's going to be out until the All-Star break with a knee injury. How is that going to affect the Washington Wizards? And AD just can't catch a break, injures himself again, this time needs surgery, and is expected out for months. So we got a lot for you guys coming up in tonight's show in addition of the Outlet Forum. Chris, it's a great week, man.
Yes,
but
sir.
There are a lot of players that can't get too comfortable because February and that trade deadline and All-Star weekend is right around the corner, less than 30, 45 days away. Actually, less than 30 days away to be exact. What do you make of Ja Morant officially, reportedly, being on the trading block by Memphis, who will now entertain offers? And in response, Ja Morant has said he's okay with it. He'll live with it if he has to. Obviously, it probably doesn't sound like he wants to get traded, but, said it's out of his hands. What do you make of it? And if he gets traded, where do you think he lands?
I think it's the end of an era for the Memphis Grizzlies and Ja Morant. I think we've been kind of tiptoeing around this season. The problems with Solo, the new head coach now in his first full season. I think even this goes back to Taylor Jenkins and the firing. I think that's what ultimately led to his firing. And, you also have to look, are we getting better or worse with this group? They moved off of Desmond Bane this past season. They traded him to Orlando. And you kind of felt like, is that going to be the only domino that we're going to see fall with the Memphis Grizzlies? And I think in Ja's case, it's not just the fact that the organization is not moving in the right direction. Chaez, it was only 3 years ago. They were the 2 seed in the Western Conference. They were the 2 seed in the Western Conference. The year before that, in 22, they challenged the Golden State Warriors in the second round of the playoffs. And yet, since that time, they've either missed the playoffs, they've had a slew of injuries, and Ja has not only not been durable, there's been a lot of problems off the court, and not even just with the coaching staff, but like issues with the law as well, and the people that he has surrounded himself with. So I just think none of this looks good for Ja. None of this is good for Memphis as they're trying to trade him. And none of this is, good, period. It's just what it is. And he's such a spectacular talent. But and Chaez, we've gone in, both of us have gone in on Ja because, this is one of the most explosive players in the game, one of the game's great athletes, not just players, but this guy could jump out of the building, but just unable to really show the maturity and leadership to uplift that Memphis Grizzlies organization. And Chaez, this is, I know he's a young guy. He's 26 years old. This is his 7th season, though. And at this point, if you're not truly elevating, right? I'm not saying you have to win a championship or anything like that, or even win an MVP like Luka Doncic hasn't. But you have to kind of show that I could uplift an organization, and he has not done that. So I think at this point, it is best for both parties to move on from one another, a clean slate for Memphis, and a clean slate for Ja. The question is, who's going to want to take him on, considering all the baggage and all the BS that come along with him, and trade off like good assets, like a first round pick or young assets or something like that. That's really the tricky situation. But I'm not surprised he's saying he's okay being traded. And I don't think I think everyone in Memphis, including Ja's biggest fans, I think they're okay with it too. I think everyone's ready for a fresh start.
Everybody's always ready for a fresh start when the talent doesn't match up to what the team has to go through to deal with the player. That's when the rubber meets the road essentially, right? And for Ja, time has just come for him, and he just really needs a different situation because he's going to learn a lot, knowing that he's going to be traded. Like when you get traded for the first time, and the team is probably better as a result because Jaren Jackson Jr. and the rest of that squad is going to they play hard. You know what I mean? Like they're not, the worst squad, but at the end of the day, they'd be better off with Ja, but not if he's not going to be completely engaged and not if he's going to do or play the way that he needs to play consistently. He's in and out of the lineup, all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff. So to the question of where he lands, man, I don't know. I think
That's where it gets
he
tricky.
probably lands. I think he probably lands with a bad team like Trae Young did in the Washington Wizards. Like
because you also have to think about the contract as well. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, ironically, I could see New Orleans going for him, going after him, because they're down there. I could see Phoenix trying to pair him up with Devin Booker.
Maybe.
I could see that as well. I could see Brooklyn trying to go get themselves somebody that they could fill the seats with because they don't have anybody like that on that squad yet. So there are a lot of different teams that I think he would fit with that could go after him, but where is he really going to be a winner most? I don't see him going to a winning team. I see him going to a team that needs a lot of help to be able to get over the edge. What would be dope would be, this wouldn't happen, but I would love to see Ja and Wemby play together. I would love for San Antonio to just go after him just because.
For sure.
But he already has his running mate in De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle and David Vassell and Harrison Barnes. Like Wemby has a stacked team. He's a top 3 team in the league, or in the West, or in the league actually. If I think I'm correctly. So for Ja Morant, man, these last few years have really been these last 3 years on a downward trajectory, and a change of scenery is definitely going to be what he needs in order to get himself into a better spot and back into the graces of the entire NBA, because his stock, like I said, is way down.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And here's the problem with the Phoenix or the San Antonios. They're playing really good basketball. Phoenix has really found their identity. They play really hard. Yeah, they may be playing over their heads a little bit, but they have a really good squad where everyone seems to be on the same page. They play hard defensively, and they are a cohesive unit with good chemistry. And now there's a definitive number one with the Devin Booker, and everybody kind of knows their place and their role. San Antonio, the same thing. Wemby is the number one. You guys that even a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who has been an all-star and whatnot, he has still been a complementary piece to Wemby in San Antonio. So now you've got a pretty solid number 2 with Stephon Castle. With Fox, and then with Castle, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, all those guys you were mentioning. Dylan Harper too is on the rise, and a good assortment of veterans. So why would any of these teams mortgage some of those assets to get a guy who, as talented as he is extremely mercurial, has had issues with coaching staff, has had issues off the court? His dad has been a very much a big distraction. And
I wouldn't say as of late, but yes.
Overall. Yeah, as of late. I'm talking just overall history, Chaez.
Overall, I got you.
Yeah, overall,
I got you.
Overall history. But you're right. T Moran he's been on a lot better behavior of late. And then not to mention the bigger thing for me, this is the hill you can die on if you don't want to buy into anything else. The durability, dude. This guy spends more time in street clothes than he does on the actual court. He does. When was the last time he played 60 games in a season? Right? It's probably been since that 23 season.
It's been a minute.
So yeah, exactly. So if we're gonna get assets for a guy, we want to make sure that he's got something between his ears and that he is mature and it's not going to be a problem. And 2, we actually want to make sure he's going to be on the court. And I think that's what really hurts Ja's value. That being said, I agree. I think he ends up with a bad team. And another team you didn't mention, what about New Orleans? Potentially pairing him up with Zion Williamson. You know, they've got the assets and everything like that. I mean,
That's what I said. I could see New Orleans going after him.
did you? Okay, I wasn't. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you threw them out there, but yeah, no. I think that would also make sense as well. I know the
I said
Clippers.
New
They've been
Orleans, San Antonio,
yeah.
Brooklyn.
I just don't know with the Clippers. I don't know if Memphis
Not the Clippers,
wants anything. No, I know, but I'm saying I've been reading that too online. Like there've been some reports that the Clippers could be linked to Ja, but I just don't know what that trade package really looks like. You know what I'm saying? Unless they're ready to move on from James Harden. But right now, Clippers have been hot, dude. What do they want? 10 out of 12? I mean, they've been one of the hottest teams in the league. They're still 7 below 500, but they're going to probably win tonight against the Washington Wizards, and they've been beating some good teams. Even their losses have been competitive. So we'll see what happens with Ja. I know Toronto could be a dark horse as well, and they've got the assets that I think Memphis would find most attractive. And because they have so many good young players and the contracts, it wouldn't be like a massive hit. You know what I mean? They wouldn't really be mortgaging the farm in order to get Ja. So keep an eye on Toronto as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Toronto can always be in the mix, as we learned with Kawhi. Speaking of Kawhi, his city in the Los Angeles has another team in LeBron James on it, who is distancing himself from his agent's comments. Chris, what do you make of Rich Paul, albeit in a hypothetical, having conversations with Max Kellerman about what the Lakers need to do in order to maximize their efforts this season? And he said that would include possibly trading Austin Reeves somewhere. LeBron was asked about this by David McMenamin, and LeBron distanced himself from this, stating that he did not have the same views as his agent, Rich Paul. What do you make of not only LeBron's stance, but Rich Paul putting his client in a bind like that and having comments to where he's saying things of that nature?
Yeah, I was not feeling that. And I think this could be borderline tampering in a way, or somebody that really mucks up. I mean, it is in the sense of this. Listen, freedom of speech. I get it. You want to go on a podcast, you want to do interviews and stuff like that. We've seen Drew Rosenhaus do that. We've seen Scott Boras go on the MLB Network. This is not a new thing. However, I don't recall Drew Rosenhaus talking about active negotiations or not active negotiations, but moves he would make or anything like that. Same with Scott Boras and same with these other high-powered agents. They've talked about stuff in the past, but not about a current player who's not his client. And I think that's why Reggie Berry, one of Austin Reeves' agent, reportedly stepped up to Rich Paul the other night, again, when the Lakers took on the Hawks, and kind of addressed that problem. So, look, I'm sure that wasn't Rich Paul's intent, but a couple of problems with that. One, now it's like the Lakers are not going to be happy with what Rich Paul is doing. So now if they are trying to make moves or whatnot, that could screw things up. And then two, it's like, just as an agent, why are you talking about the moves you would be making? That just seems like unprofessional, short-sighted, and just kind of like it just screws things up. It screws up the natural flow of things, of how trades and moves get done in the NBA. So I just think Rich Paul should have known a little bit better than to do that. And then obviously the LeBron aspect of it, a lot of people associate Rich Paul with LeBron. Now, granted, Rich is his own man, but people aren't sophisticated enough or nuanced enough, Chaez, to see a difference between Rich Paul's opinion not being something that him and LeBron might have talked about. You know what I mean? They're not going to give LeBron or Rich Paul that benefit of the doubt. So if Rich Paul is saying it, chances are they're like, oh, well, this must be what LeBron thinks, right? Because that's his agent, it's his man, known each other for years. You know what I mean? Hindsight is 2020 for a lot of people. So that's where I think Rich really just kind of be careful with that aspect of it. And I thought LeBron handled it as best he could. Now, whether anyone wants to believe it, that's on them. But it just does. It's just a bad look, bro. All the way around. Just a bad look.
Yeah, it's an awful look. It's look, Rich Paul could be right as the day is long on this podcast, but that doesn't mean that he's in the right for saying it in terms of what
Mhm.
him saying being right in the grand scheme of things. I I'd be hard pressed to find out if there's any agent that should be doing a podcast talking about what they think should happen and should not happen in certain teams, regardless of if they're talking hypothetically or not. It's just
I
not a good
agree.
look, and it doesn't behoove your business. You know, you're undercutting your own business and the connections that you've worked so hard to be able to get, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I think it's just
Yeah.
going against the grain, and quite honestly, shitting where you eat by doing that as well. Because if it's messing up your money and messing up your bottom line, maybe not yet, but I can. It's pretty obvious that there's a snowball effect that's going to come with it if people aren't willing to give you information or work with you or do certain things
Mhm.
because they think that you're going about doing business a certain way by talking about it in the open,
Mhm.
in the on the airwaves, and you may not get privy to certain things because they think you may talk about it. It's all kinds of stuff. So I just don't think it's good for not only himself but his clients as well. I don't think that they
Mhm.
feel he should be doing that as well. Not all of them, but I'm sure some of them. Because if I'm not even a client and I can see that, then you know if your agent is uh, overexposed and not meeting certain criterias for other people that they're doing business with, then it's just not going to be good in the outcome overall in the grand scheme of things. So that may not be the case right now. It's just you're opening yourself up to that possibility by doing so, and that's really all my point is. But ultimately, you
Yeah,
gotta
and there's
admit that
yeah, go ahead.
it is definitely pretty awkward for LeBron, and then Austin Reeves in the middle of all this, just like minding his fucking business,
Mhm.
So that
Exactly.
that's the messed up part. That's the messed
Yeah,
up part in all this.
it is. And Chaz, you know as well as I do, and we've talked about this before, there is a large faction of Laker fans who I think are ready for the LeBron era to move on as it is. And when you have a situation like this where, yeah, it's not LeBron directly saying it, but his agent and his friend and everyone knows, who this guy is, it makes it that much worse of a look, and it fans those flames a little bit hotter to the point where now it's like LeBron doesn't necessarily, it feels like, potentially fans are really going to want to see him gone at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like it's this is what I was saying. Like it's a bad look, not just for Rich Paul or undercutting the business as you articulated well, or even putting LeBron in an awkward spot because you got to see Austin, and Austin's got to think, is this what you actually feel about me? The 4 or 5 years we've been together, and this is actually what you think. Like I should be traded for Jaren Jackson Jr. and everything like that, regardless of does it make sense on the basketball court, because it is an intriguing deal. Is it appropriate for an agent who doesn't represent that player, or even if he does represent that player, to discuss that? And I just think it makes LeBron in the process look really, really bad. And it adds fuel to that fire of the Laker fans who want to see him gone. I mean, Chaz, I know how you feel about it, but you can't deny that is out there. That narrative and
Yeah,
those fans
yeah,
exist.
yeah. No, I mean, I mean, in the last few years, I've had to come to grips with, while I may not agree that the perception is reality for some fans, and that's just what they're ready to move on from with LeBron James, especially knowing now that they have Luca. Like until then, you had some people that were out, some people that were in on the fence, but some people that as soon as
Mhm.
they got Luca, they were already all the way out, and it's just I hate that
It's the end of an
Laker
era,
fans
though.
and other
Yeah.
fans, divide like that. But you know, this is just part of the business. There was a conversation online on Twitter talking about if Kobe was as divisive, and people forget he actually really was, especially in
Yeah.
2003, 2004 when
Or
he
and
had made
actually go back
comments
to '07.
during his case.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
That.
like when he made comments about Shaq, like even
Mhm.
before, '07 when he, said he wanted to play on Pluto on Stephen A. Smith's show,
Sure.
play for the Lakers again. Or, when he was talking about, guys, being soft as Charmin in that practice with Mitch Kupchak. Like Kobe has been very, very divisive, and LeBron isn't the first Laker. I mean, even Magic was actually pretty divisive
Sure.
early in his career with the whole coach killer and $1
You
million
you
contract and
oh, of
yada yada.
course.
So
Yeah. No,
it's as
it's a good
old as
point.
the game is long, man.
Sure. I think here's the difference, though. LeBron does not have the equity built in with this Laker fan base as those two others did. And even by the way, Chaz, I am sure there was a large faction of Laker fans, which there were, by the way. If you've seen Laker documentaries, the one on Hulu, the one that Magic did with Apple, where they actually showed fans' reactions when he wanted Paul Westhead gone. Fans were pissed in '81 with Magic. Fans were pissed with Kobe in '04 with the whole, sexual assault allegations. He lost sponsorship. He lost advertising. His image took a major hit. And then, Chaz, I was mentioning '07, which you actually said, I would rather play on Pluto, the supermarket thing about trading Andrew Bynum for Jason Kidd. There are a lot of Laker fans, I'm sure, that were like, you know what? If this guy is that upset, get him out of there and we'll move on. We're thankful. I mean, there will always be those factions of Laker fans who will be like, you know what? These stars are not worth the headache. Ja Morant, we were just talking about it. I'm sure there's a lot of Memphis fans who love him, but I'm sure a large percentage that are like, you know what? Get this guy out of here. He ain't worth the trouble. And the difference with Ja compared to like Magic or Kobe or even LeBron, those guys have actually won championships with the Lakers and their respective organizations. So, right, though. I agree 100% on what you said. And people do have short memories. The difference is two things. One, the built-in equity that Magic and Kobe had. And two, we did not live in the age of hyper-partisanship. Not getting political, but that is a statement of fact, or toxic social media at reaggregators. That's the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not wrong there either. Well, moving on to some other NBA news. LeBron's former teammate Anthony Davis is in the news, and for all the wrong reasons you would expect, unfortunately. Anthony Davis has injured his left hand for, I think, the third time now. Both times before he didn't have surgery. This time he's clearly going to need surgery because he is going to miss quite a few months, actually. And word on the street was that Anthony Davis was going to be on the trading block as well. Oh, breaking news in the middle of the show, just really quick, Chris. John Harbaugh is expected to finalize an agreement with the New York Giants. Did not let him leave the building. That's what I said they should do, and they did. He was expected to go to Miami as well as Vegas for the Raiders and maybe even Cleveland as well. The Giants did the right thing, keeping Harbaugh in the building, and they get the best coach on the market. Shout out to the Giants. I could really give a shit about the Giants, but just wanted to break some.
It's a good hire.
News thanks to Schefter. We'll get into some NFL in just a few minutes after we finish this AD and Trae Young thing. But really quick, getting back to AD, I feel bad for him, and here's why. I think he wanted to get out of Dallas. I think he wanted to move on and get out of that situation. Potentially. I could be wrong, but it would make sense.
With all the negativity.
Dealing with all the negativity. He was, he wasn't going to get traded to somewhere awful. I mean, maybe, because you don't know where you could get traded to, because there's 29 other teams, or 28 minus the Lakers, that he could still get traded to. But I just think for AD, it's just unfortunate, because who knows what would have happened had he not have had this injury, because he may have been very, very close to being traded, or maybe he would not have been. Who knows? But the way it was pointing to is that AD was likely going to end somewhere else. So what do you think? Does he end up somewhere else still at the deadline? Somebody takes a flyer on him because he's injured and they know they're gonna get him at the lowest possible price that they can get him at. Like, I don't know, Phoenix, who would be great with Anthony Davis right now.
That'd be a good pickup.
Or do teams try and go after him in the summer when he's probably healed and the price is back up or not as high? What do you think?
Yeah, it's just and this was the problem. I was sort of torn on this, and I was actually on Patrick Dumont's side of saying, let's wait until potentially Kyrie Irving comes back this season. I know there was a report that I saw, I don't know how credible it was, saying that Kyrie may not end up playing this season, right? So I was interested in seeing, you already traded for this guy, right? You've got Cooper Flag in place. Let's see what this potentially looks like with a healthy AD, a healthy Kyrie, Cooper Flag. Can they potentially sneak in as a play-in team, one of those play-in teams that no one really wants to face, and then maybe even clinch a playoff spot? That was my whole thing. Because here's the thing. If you're trying to trade him now, guess what happens, Chaz? No one is going to give you good value for Anthony Davis right now. Unfortunately, they should, but given his injury issues, that have really hindered him since he stepped foot in Dallas, which has almost been a year now, the guy has consistently not been on the floor, even worse than he was during his time with the Lakers. So I think you're in a situation. I mean, yes, this guy could still drop 30 points on any given night. He could grab 15, 16 rebounds. He could block 4 or 5 shots. He's a very good help defender. He could guard guards and wings on the perimeter as a how teams love to switch on the high screen and roll. There's a lot that Anthony Davis can still bring to the table. When he is on, he's still a top 10, 15 player in today's NBA still, even though he's in year, I believe, 14. And he's 32, 33 years old. But the problem is these injuries. And granted, it's nothing chronic. It's not like I have a chronic knee issue like Embiid or something like that. It's always like a annoying, nagging injury that turns out to be very serious, that requires a lot of time to heal from. That is just Anthony Davis. That's always been Anthony Davis. That'll always be Anthony Davis. So if I'm Dallas at this point, I might as well, I would say this. There are other guys we can trade that we could potentially get decent value for. Gafford, PJ Washington, Klay Thompson, and Najee Marshall. I think those are 4 guys that can give you some value. And then I would say, you know what, AD? We will wait until the offseason, especially since you're guaranteed, I think, for another year or 2 on the extension he originally signed with the Lakers, and we will shop him when he's healthy in the offseason. And here's the problem with trading for him now, Chaz. He's going to be out potentially 2 months. That's a big chunk of the regular season. Who can afford to trade assets right now if you are a borderline playoff team or an elite playoff team and survive 2 months without some of that depth, waiting for AD to get healthy and then not know what it looks like when he does get healthy? You know what I mean? How does he fit in with that certain squad? So you really got to be careful.
It's got to be a team that is down on their luck anyway. So I think he's more than likely going to get borderline team. It's more likely going to happen in the summer, but we'll see. I'm going to skip Trae Young because I really want to talk some football. Trae Young got traded to the worst team in the league, and Shams Charania wanted us all to believe that was exactly what he wanted to happen amid the other 28 teams he could have gone to outside of the Wizards. An absolute joke. And it was just the only place that was willing to take him, given the money and the situation, which is why he was only traded for an expiring in CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert, who, no disrespect, is barely a rotation player. So good luck to Trae Young and the Washington Wizards, and we'll see you in 5 years when you're demanding another trade. On to football with the NFL Divisional Weekend coming up. Chris, I got some picks for you. But before we get to that, we got some great matchups. We got Denver Buffalo again, back-to-back years. We got Seattle, San Fran. Divisional rivalry for a chance to go to the NFC Championship. We got Texans Patriots. A defensive juggernaut, I think. Take the under in that one. And then finishing it off with the best game of the weekend with the Rams and the Bears, like you were mentioning.
The Bears.
Show. Chris, which of these matchups intrigues you most? Give me one. Just one.
Damn. The Bills are. I had a feeling they were good. By the way, speaking of picks, I went 6-0 last week, bro, in Wild Card Weekend. So nobody's perfect except for me going 6-0 last weekend. I just want that on the record. But yeah, no, I like the Bills Broncos matchup. I think you're right, Chaez. I think it's going to be a good rematch. The Bills, it's just, man, they just can't catch a break. Not only playing on the road, they're playing some of the best teams in football all season long. And you now have to go up against Vance Joseph once again in that really good defense. And this team, and I'm sorry, not Niners. This more seasoned, more polished. And I am not super sold on Bo Nix.
Oh man, Chris's connection just went absolutely out. I'm gonna just say the best game of the weekend is gonna be Rams Bears. It just is, because that game, it's got the most money on the line in terms of bragging rights, in terms of storyline, in terms of Ben Johnson to Matt LaFleur, who's goes back with Sean McVay, and his brother, who's on the team and the squad as well, in Mike LaFleur. So I'm sure the Rams are going to be looking for a little extra get back to Ben Johnson and the Bears. So that's the best and most intriguing matchup to me. That, along with if Josh Allen can beat the number 1 seed Denver Broncos on the road, those are the two most intriguing matchups. The Texans and the Patriots, it's going to be an absolute snooze fest. Like I said, take the under in that one. And the Seattle Seahawks are going to absolutely demolish the San Francisco 49ers with no Kittle on the field, and Seattle off the bye, ready to pin their ears back and go after Brock Purdy, who is not going to look like the Brock Purdy of the last month or so, where he's just been absolutely dealing. So give me the Bears and the Rams with a side of Bills and Broncos. And by the way, Rams Bills is my Super Bowl pick, with the Rams as Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, sorry about that. Brief blackout right there. I was channeling my inner Brad Swirsky, a certain theme from a certain town, but he already beat me to it. No, but I was saying about good analysis on that. Ben Johnson versus McVay. I mean, these are all intriguing matchups, and I just wanted to mention one more thing about Bills and Broncos, and this will be a big test for the Broncos. How much have they grown up in the past year? And are they ready to take that next step forward? Whereas the Bills, Chaez, this could be the best opportunity they may ever have with this current group and with Josh Allen, with Sean McDermott. If they don't get it done this year, I don't really know if they ever will get over that hump, even if they continue to run it back. Now, I don't think Allen deserves to get traded. I don't think Sean McDermott deserves to get fired or anything like that. But it is a very tough road that they have ahead of them, because they essentially have to win 3 road games in order to get to the Super Bowl. But Rams Bears is also going to be very intriguing, because the cardiac Bears, dude, they have just found ways to win games this year. That's really been the story of their season. The cardiac kids, the comeback kids, Caleb Williams. It seems to be better throwing on the run in a disorganized offense than he is when things are perfectly in place in the pocket for him. So Rams defense in that cold weather, they're going to have their work cut out for them. Hopefully Stafford's finger doesn't have any issues. Kevin Dotson coming back to the offensive line is going to be huge. If they could find a way, and here's what bothers me, Chaez, about this game.
What bothers you, Chris?
It's the fact that you have a team that has been a second half team all year, and you have in the Bears, and you have a team in the Rams who've blown a lot of second half leads. So that's my concern. You know what I mean? Including this past week, by the way, in Carolina. So
you know what, Chris? The Rams.
I'm just saying.
The Rams are due for an absolute demolishing of a team. They haven't had one of those since before the Lions game. I think it was the Tampa Bay Sunday night game. Like it's been almost 2 months.
Yeah.
It's been a month and a half since you've completely undressed a team, which you've done so plenty of times this year in the first 11 weeks. So
yeah,
this is the opportunity for that. I even like the Rams team total over 27.5 specifically. I think they're going to hang 30 plus on this offense or on this Bears defense. It's not going to be snowing. It's just going to be cold and windy. So if it's not snowing and it's just cold and windy, then the Rams got an even better chance. Even if it was in the snow, you saw how they played in Philly. But if there's some traction on the floor, I think or on the field, they're going to be just fine. So that
I hope
is the
you're
game that
right.
I'm looking forward to the most, for reasons outside of the hoodie that I'm wearing.
And I hope you're right. I'm just saying that's what makes me nervous. We saw a special teams issue, a blocked punt. We saw we listen, playoffs are weird. And what we've seen so far is teams sometimes not look as sure-handed. I mean, look at the Eagles this past week, right? Drop passes from Smith, drop passes from AJ Brown. They were, Puka dropped a pass. So like you're seeing the best of the best in this league, talent wise, not always make the big plays. That's what I'm saying. That is part of playoff football. I just want to measure 7.5 point or 7 watch because they got good game to think to Chelsea.
Well, your connection isn't letting us be great, so we'll finish this off really quick. Last couple picks, like I said, Rams take the 3.5 lead. New England, I don't know about the spread, but they are definitely not losing to that Texans team. CJ Stroud can't even keep his hands on the ball against Pittsburgh. What is he going to do on the road against New England? Take New England money line. And Buffalo, I just think it's the year of Josh Allen. Broncos should win, but are they really ready to win a big game like this to go to the AFC Championship? I don't know. You lay in points with the better quarterback. Take the better quarterback. I'll take the points and Buffalo. Chris,
hold on. Let's talk for this Harbaugh. Weekend. Let's talk Harbaugh real quick. Harbaugh and Tomlin, end of an era. Congrats to both. They got nothing to be ashamed of. I know it didn't end the way they wanted. Both are going to end up with jobs. Obviously, John Harbaugh, which you just broke, is going to the New York Giants. A great situation there. I think a team on the rise with Malik Neighbors, with Jackson Dart. A lot of good young players on that defense as well. And they're going to have another high draft pick. I think they're going to have the second overall pick in this spring draft. So Harbaugh's the right guy. I think you want in that situation. So, I think for these guys, they reached the ceiling to what they could accomplish. They weren't able to get over that hump in the playoffs. And sometimes that's just what it is. Tomlin's the same thing. I don't think Tomlin's going to coach this year. At least he's not expected to. But we'll see him back on the sidelines, it's at some point. These guys are legends in their respective organizations. They'll never have to pay for another drink or a meal in Baltimore or Pittsburgh, respectively. And I think fans, even though it didn't end the way they wanted it to, the fans of both respective cities should tip their cap to both of these men for building and adding on to the respective cultures in Baltimore and Pittsburgh. So shout out to both. It was the end of an era, but you know what? A lot to be proud of if you're Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh.
Mike Tomlin, it was time. Enjoy your family. John Harbaugh, Malik Neighbors is going to absolutely eat. He should be a top 5 fantasy pick next year. Yeah. Maybe even above Jamar Chase, since Joe Burrow can't keep his ass off the injury report. So with that said, let's get to these football games. It's going to be a great weekend. And NBA, let's keep turning out some good games. We'll see you guys next week. And thank you guys for tapping in always to the Outlet Forum. We'll see you guys again next Wednesday, 8:30. Peace.